And in today's Mlimani Discussion Forum, we are happy to commemorate the Law Week. And today we are in the Legal Services Facilities Office to see how this Law Week goes. And your host is me, Esther Delsa, but I'm not alone. I'm with my guest here who will introduce himself. Welcome.
Well, thanks a lot, Esther. First of all, I would like to appreciate Mlimani TV coming here at the LSF. We are happy to receive you, and also we are happy to talk to actually the public, Tanzanians, on the Law Week and what the LSF do or does during this the Law Week. So by names, I am Advocate Deogratius Bwire. I work at the Legal Services Facility as the Programs Manager, and here I am to talk to you about the Law Week.
Yeah, so on that being said, let's start what is Legal Service Facility Deogratius. The number of viewers, they would love to hear about what is Legal Service Facility, how they involved in laws and regulations of Tanzania, how do they operate, what is their role like? Yeah.
Thanks a lot. The Legal Services Facility is an NGO, the non-governmental organization.
Okay.
It was registered in 2013, first as a company limited by guarantee, and in 2019 it was re-registered as an NGO following the amendment of the NGOs Act, which had put a clarity on the definition of an NGO and companies. The role of the LSF is to enhance access to justice, basically, or in particular to women and girl child, that is women and girls. And the LSF does that through three main approaches. The first one is as legal empowerment. Legal empowerment entails grant making and also capacity development. So the LSF does grant making to legal aid providers and paralegals who actually people. They are not actually legal professionals. They are just individuals who have undergone specialized training in laws and various areas on human rights, and also some other important key areas which are very important for people to know about their rights. And with that knowledge of law, capacity development to them is very continuous, so that they are kept updated of the changes in the laws. Remember, they are not legal professionals, they are not lawyers, they are not advocates. So these are paralegals, legal aid providers. That is how the LSF works. And another approach is through advocacy in policy and also governance issues. And on that one, the LSF works with the government, in particular ministries. So the LSF has MOUs, Memorandum of Understanding, with various government departments and institutions. The MOCLA, Minister of Legal and Constitutional Legal Affairs, and some other key ministries to actually work on the policy advocacy, laws amendment, and the motive is to make sure there is conducive environment for sustainable access to justice through legal aid provision.
Yes, we witnessed the launching of this Law Week. Actually, it started from 22nd of January, and its final commemoration will be held in Dodoma in 1st or 2nd?
Yeah.
So, and the theme was the importance of conflict resolution through arbitration in promoting a sustainable economy, the role of courts and stakeholders. So getting back in this theme, let's discuss this 2023's theme of the Law Week. Why using arbitration approach in promoting sustainable economy and resolving conflicts? Why this theme?
It's very interesting that you actually talk of arbitration,
Okay.
but the theme is much broader than arbitration because it talks about alternative dispute resolution. So with alternative dispute resolution, you do not only mean arbitration, you mean the alternative ways of actually adjudicating or resolving disputes. Basically, without a resort to courts or courts of law, basically it's very key for the LSF because with the legal aid program, that is very basic, that is the key. So to come back to your explanation on the theme, with ADR, alternative dispute resolution, we mean arbitration, one, but we also mean mediation, we also mean conciliation. Yes, those are the key areas when we say alternative dispute resolution. So with arbitration, arbitration is more of, used in commercial matters, matters related to trade and finances, that's arbitration. And mediation is actually more involved in actually mediating on some matters that you have a mediator and you bring two parties and they agree to settle a dispute without actually having that adversarial model that one should win, because when it comes to arbitration, for example, or the court, one should definitely win. But with mediation, you actually reconcile. Now you have now resorted to reconciliation. It's actually more or less like mediation, but it's just a method which is actually used to reach the settlement is a bit different. But all in all, the court or the judiciary is determined to actually drive justice to the community because it understands that the community uses a lot of time. Much time is being used to deal with disputes, and at times you might find people not concentrating on production and work and some other activities, but only resort to dispute resolutions. So with this week, I think the message is being sent to the public that the court is there to at least ensure that there are some other ways which they might be using in settling their disputes, whilst saving time to actually concentrate in economic production without having resort to courts, which normally courts do use a lot of time. There are a lot of delays, and the cases takes long to actually finish. So I think it's very key.
Do you think like there's enough awareness out there of people using arbitration approach more than always opting to go to court? Because as I was listening to the Minister of Constitution and Law, as he was launching
legal affairs.
Yeah, legal affairs. Yes, he was talking about there are a lot of acts talking about using arbitration approach, but still they're not really being used. But people still opt to go to court. For instance, he gave an example of Media Council of Tanzania. Like, they have a room to sit with their maybe journalists and media professionals in settling things, but still people choose to go to court. So do you think there is a lot of awareness, the awareness that is out there, is it enough? Or there's still that they have to push more awareness to the society?
Well, it's a very key concern. You know, there are laws which put forth the ADR, the use of the ADR. But you know, the judiciary has been concentrating more on court-annexed mediation or arbitration, because in laws there are some procedures of ADR which are annexed to the court procedures, you know, and there are actually mediation or arbitration which is not annexed to the courts. Yes. So what was very popular even to the lawyers, and it is actually used very much, is the court annexed mediation. That's why we can say there was not that much awareness to the public that you could actually settle your disputes without going to the court. So in 2020, there was enactment of the Arbitration Act, which actually came with some improvements on regulation and also coordination of the ADR, the alternative dispute resolutions. And to that effect, some other laws, for example, the Civil Procedure Code was also amended, and the ministry actually also introduced from the law the Arbitration Center, the center which actually is responsible to, you know, accredit mediators and arbitrators. So at least from 2020, and I think this theme has come at a very opportune time for the public to know of all these things, including amendments of the laws and the enactment of the Arbitration Act. So I totally agree that there is no much awareness to the people, to the public, that there are these ways, alternative means which can be used to actually reach justice, to get to access their rights. But at least the court, the judiciary now has come through this week now, so that at least the public knows and they well understand about this one.
We're seeing that a lot of judicial or legal service facilities being centered are in urban areas, mostly a city like Dar es Salaam. But Tanzania is very huge, and last year we had a national census. Our population is growing, and also country, geographically it's big. But there was an introduction of mobile courts. Do you think it will be a solution to reach those interior areas where maybe in one way or another there are no like courts, they just use normal judicial processes? Will mobile courts solve that?
Well, so first of all, to just clarify on how the LSF works, I said the LSF works to support legal aid services providers, including paralegals. So with the Access to Justice program, paralegals who are supported all over, they actually work across the country. So we have paralegals, we support at least 4,000 paralegals across the country. In each district, there is a paralegal organization. You can find a paralegal organization having at least 20 paralegals individuals now. These are being registered by the Ministry of Constitutional and Legal Affairs. But actually, as much as they are registered, they are not actually financially supported. Now the LSF support them financially.
So that's your responsibility.
To reach out. That's our responsibility. That's what we do. When I say it, grant making. So we do grant making to those paralegal organizations, actually working across the country, and including Zanzibar too. We are also in Zanzibar. We have a sub office in Zanzibar. So in 2020, we had a program called the Urban Legal Empowerment Program, basically because primarily our paralegal program is more rural based, you know, so we were not actually stretching much on the legal problems in urban areas. We could find actually that there are more legal problems, but in actually they look a bit different from those problems in rural areas. You might find maybe land conflicts, you might find inheritance issues in the rural areas, but in urban you might find maybe employment problems, you can find environmental problems, all those actually, or even sexual violence, you know, GBV is actually much in urban areas. So in both settings, both urban and rural, we actually reach through legal aid providers and some other partners. Talking of mobile court, it's a very good one, and it actually helps. You also do mobile courts, mobile legal aid services, actually, because in some other areas, really people cannot be reached. So it's a very good and innovative way of reaching out to people for legal services, for adjudication of their matters, which there is innovation which the court has come up with, including the digitalization. I think during the introduction of the program you said about digitalization. So if I am to say one of the achievements the judiciary has made is digitalization. So there are a lot of, you know, improvement
and transformation
of the judiciary in terms of digitalization and how actually even cases are being filed. So we, as well as we file cases in courts. So you can file your case, you know, and register your case, you get a number, and also payment of court fees made digitally. And also after the case is over, you can get a copy, you know, from, you know, the website of the judiciary.
And to what extent do people use those digital platforms? Is it like, to measure it in one extent, do really people use, or it just being used by a certain group of people? Because we know there are people, some are illiterate, or some are just demanded to use maybe digital platforms, or they don't have access to, maybe some can be facing challenges of having access to internet, or even how to use, how to get those, like filing cases, getting to those digital platforms. To what extent do the society has received that digital transformation of provision of judicial services?
Well, yeah, it's still a challenge. As you know, digitalization is a new thing in, you know, not only in Tanzania, but in most of the African countries. But at least we are making it. There is even the penetration of internet. You could see the extent. You cannot actually compare to when we were actually the situation we were in for example, 2000s, 2000, the year 2000 and now. So at least every actual improvement has stages. So at least we have that improvement, and I'm very sure if we sustain and we put more effort to improve more, and also to tell people that there is this kind of transformation, I think most of the people will be aware of that one. However, we have some people who support, those who cannot access or cannot use. We have lawyers who actually support, or they act as counselors for the public. They are aware of this, and court systems are not for everyone.
Yes. Okay, talking about lawyers, actually, we'll be back. I'm still here with Deogratius Bria in the legal service facility. We'll go for a short break and we'll be back soon. Stay with us. Okay, so we were talking about lawyers. Deogratius, you talked about among the achievements of legal service providers, it's using digital platforms. So let's talk about the challenges you guys are facing. Is it still maybe funds in providing legal services, or is it about professions? Because talking about professions, it was last year the law school announced the number of students who were able to make it to be credited as lawyers. It's not satisfactory, and there were a lot of rumors, people saying maybe law is hard, like what's the problem? So in your point of view as a legal service provider, is it still the problem of professions, or is it about funds to provide justice services to the society?
It's very interesting. Well, you know, I think you have talked of two different things. You have talked of digitalization and lawyers, and also you have talked of the law school and the failure of most of the students. So talking of digitalization, I said previously that at least there are some improvements, and with NGOs and some other entities apart from the judiciary, you have now a lot of even mobile apps on legal aid. The LSF also has one. It's called the Haki Yangu app, whereby the mode which has been adopted is like a mode which they provide us for transportation, like Uber or some other transportation facilities use when you have to go to somewhere. So you have to go to an app, and then you see service providers who are actually nearby, and you can access them, you can contact them. So with the Haki Yangu app, you have that model. If you go to the app, obviously you have to be connected to the internet. You will see legal aid providers
that's around you.
that are around you. So you can even have a chat with them without, you can even actually tell them their problem, and they can assist without you actually incurring cost of transportation to go see them. So there are some other apps which you can report. For example, if it has happened that there's a GBV which has been done to someone, maybe a child or a woman.
We'll get back to that point of
so
children
that's,
and women.
yes, so that's actually, there are a lot of improvements currently on access to justice when it comes to digitalization. But as you said, I think more awareness is actually needed so that at least the public knows and how to use that one, especially in remote areas. Coming back to the law school and the failure, so this is a very complex matter. It's about the students themselves, it's about teachers, it's about facilities, it's about everything. So there are a lot of issues, and I think there was a committee which was formed, and it came up with recommendations and some observations. I think I read the report, and I think all the observations which were presented are very key. So it's not about just one thing that students are not reading, or law is very complicated. And I think it's both ways. Those who teach students and students themselves. So it's a bit complex, which
hard to tell.
It needs, I think, both parts to play their roles.
And maybe for the benefit of someone who is watching us about the law school, I usually ask myself, like, for instance, law, some universities have 4 years, some 3 years. Why do they have to go to law school? Do those 3 years or maybe 4 years, aren't they enough for them to be really accredited as lawyers? Or there is another, they have to get something else out of going to law school?
Basically is, well, the 3 years it depends on the setup of the university.
Yes.
You know, but there is a uniform curriculum for undergraduate degree, for the Bachelor of Laws degree. Actually, the Minister of Constitutional Legal Affairs is the custodian for that one, for the curriculum. Well, when it comes now to the law school is something else. The law school basically is for legal practice. You know, in the undergraduate, you concentrate more on theories, actually reading more of books and just the understanding of the law. But law needs practice, you know, so you have procedures, you have technicalities, you have documents, you have to draft, you have everything. You have even examination, court, interrogations. I think that is more clear in the courts and courtrooms. So you have to interrogate, witnesses. You have to answer the judge, the magistrate. So all of those need
so
some
it's
kind
more
of
practical.
practice.
Okay.
You see,
so
the law school is more practical. Now the question is, how practical is it? So that is another question.
Yeah.
Because you, as much as it's practical oriented, and that is one of the issues which was pointed out in the report of the committee, as much as it's practical, it should be practical based. But you can find, I've been at the law school, you can find most of the time you just sit in classrooms, you are taught like what you were actually taught in those 3 years. But you use a very small minimal time to really engage in practice. So it's you as an individual and your efforts to take initiative to learn more. So you can find some attached to law firms, attached to some other organizations which actually teach them more of practice than those who cannot actually, who just depend on law school. So it's a bit complex, and it's I think it's a reform which has also to be made at law school.
I think the government will work on that. But recently, the graduates, we have witnessed some more kids cases, not only girls. Previously, it was case maybe FGM, being raped, harassed, sexual harassed. But also right now, our other gender male are being affected the same. So what should the legal service provider do concerning this? Because it has been really rampant for the past months.
Yeah, it's okay. I agree with you, and this is it's a very huge concern, and we have seen even the government talking of that one. So last year, the Ministry of Gender had requested stakeholders for a meeting. You can imagine it was an emergency meeting to discuss the increasing, rate of GBV, including killings of spouses. I think you have seen that one. And there is also an increase of GBV to children, not only girl child, but also boys. And this actually affects much the people in Zanzibar. So the Zanzibar, the rate is higher than in mainland. So that's the problem. I think efforts which were put by stakeholders were much on girls' protection. So attention is being now shifted to boys, because this also happens to boys, not only girls. So this is a call to all stakeholders working on GBV, not only to consider girls, but also to consider boys, because somehow boys were left out, and it's only girls who were protected, and most of the programs were very, very, female-oriented.
Yes.
Women, girls were being at the center, rather than being inclusive with also boys. Yeah.
Yeah. So last question. We understand the contribution of legal service facility, but we know as an NGO, we always have plans maybe for the year, and since we are in the middle of commemoration of the Law Week, what's your plan to improve providing legal service to the society for 2023?
Well, it's a good question. Talking of the ADR, for example, so one of the priority area, which is in our strategic plan 2021-2026, it's enhancing access to justice through alternative dispute resolution. And as much as we are a grant-making organization, so we had actually requested, we had issued a call for proposal for organizations to request for funding to do projects on ADR.
Yes.
So last year, and currently we have one partner who is implementing, a project on ADR. So apart from that one, so this shows that we are very much concerned with the ADR, and we do that one. Apart from actually supporting the government, coming up with guidelines for ADR, also the rules and regulation for the ADR, which we also took part with the Ministry of Constitutional and Legal Affairs. We also continue to support legal aid services providers. This is our priority area, and it's a core activity for the legal service facility, supporting legal aid providers to provide legal aid, to provide legal education, to provide counseling to victims of GBV, for example, or those indigent poor people, including women and girls who are in need of legal aid services. So we are still on that one, and with this year, that is our priority, and some other areas of rights to protect girls and women.
Thank you so much, Deogratius. So thank you so much for watching us. Remind you, once Thomas Jefferson, third president of USA, once said, ignorance of the law is not an excuse. So I encourage you on, is it 1st or 2nd? 1st of February to participate in Dodoma if you're near, maybe in Dar es Salaam. It's just a near distance. And reminding you, the theme is the importance of conflict resolution through arbitration in promoting a sustainable economy, the role of cost and stakeholders. You can still be with us in our YouTube channel, Mlimani Media Discussion Forum, or follow us in our Instagram page at Mlimani Media. Thank you so much. See you in the next episode.